Building a completely bespoke custom off-road camper trailer means only one thing. You not only have to expect teething issues, it is part of the process to find and fix them before a major trip. This is why properly testing a new rig is critical. You need to get it off the road and camp in conditions that will actually stress test every single component. If something is going to break, you want it to break so you can fix it before you go out on a real trip. And today I'm going to take you along for the first official shakedown trip of my new camper trailer. I'm going to walk you through the additional fit out since my previous video, show you exactly what worked perfectly, and give you the brutal truth about the severe miscalculations and failures and the things that I need to fix. What's up, I'm Eamon and welcome back to Bush Business. Before we get stuck into it, if you are new here or enjoying the content so far, please take a second to hit that like and subscribe button for me. It really does help the channel and shows me that you appreciate the time and effort that it takes for me to make these videos. Let's get stuck straight into business. If you watched the last video about the trailer, you already know about this massive custom build. And if you haven't seen it, I really do recommend checking that video out too in the link below, so you can really understand why I had this trailer built and my expectations from it. Since getting it home, it has been an absolute rush to get it ready for my first major trip, the upcoming Brisbane 4x4 show. And that meant not only fitting what needed to go in, but also a good shakedown to highlight any issues or problems so I can fix them in advance. I also needed to learn how to use the equipment that is on the trailer and learn how to drive the trailer itself. But before we talk about how it actually performed in the bush, let me quickly get you up to speed on what I've added and changed in the trailer since picking it up that we didn't cover in the previous video. First up, the electrical system. Red Dust Fabrications wired up the end drive system to any electricals that were already built into the trailer. But I did need extra ports for accessories like Starlink, solar blankets, and charging my gear. So I added a kick-ass power box to give me more Anderson plugs and charging ports for my camera and camping gear. Also, in the past, my biggest struggle was having to choose between a fridge or a freezer when traveling. It meant either carrying frozen food only and thawing it out as needed, not really ideal for my style of travel as I camp point to point and hardly spend multiple days at one spot, or carry everything fresh, which means that I have to thaw out any meat, pies, and things like that, and then I have to dispose of them at the end of my trip. This is no longer an issue because I ended up installing a King's 85-liter upright fridge. Now I can run the fridge in my cruiser canopy as a freezer and use the trailer as a fridge and get the best of both worlds. Anything that needs to be frozen can stay frozen, and anything that needs to stay fresh can just stay in the fridge. And even though it is a little bit high, the only place for it to go was right above the slide-out kitchen. On the opposite side of the trailer, I mounted a large Dune pull-out drawer. This drawer will hold items that need to remain dry and safe, like the hot water system for example, and other essentials that aren't really product related that I don't want to put in the front toolbox. On the opposite end of the trailer, right at the rear, I ended up mounting a blacksmith wheel bag on the spare tire to carry additional rubbish or dirty items. And inside of the main canopy, I installed two Piranha off-road slide-out pantries. These pantries are needed to hold smaller products that I can't put on the shelves, as well as tester bottles that I don't want to have on display but still have with me if I need them. The pantries can also be used as pantries when I'm not using them to hold products. For the product display, I modified the internal shelving by removing a middle shelf, altering the angle, and adding cargo nets to keep the product secure in transit. I also installed a swing arm TV bracket for the trade show to mount the display monitor. Also, inside of the canopy, I installed a folding clothes hanger on hinges that can stow away neatly out of the way when it's not in use. The biggest and most complicated upgrade for the trailer was actually the rear view camera. This required custom wiring and relays, allowing me to switch between the car and camera trailers as needed with the press of a button. And it is completely hardwired using waterproof Dosh plugs. With the fit out done, it was time to test it all out, and I'm happy to report that the positives heavily outweighed the negatives. First off, towing. Despite pushing the 3-ton mark, and the fact that I have minimal towing experience, the trailer is incredibly comfortable to drive with. Having the rear view camera made reversing a lot easier than I expected, and made highway driving much more comfortable. Both the cruiser and the trailer easily managed a variety of different road surfaces with amazing stability. At camp, it took just under 15 minutes to have the tent and awning fully set up, which was fantastic. And this would have been even faster, but the tension rods were a little bit fiddly due to the awning position, nothing that a pair of vice grips can't fix hopefully in the future. The Outback tent and the awning worked very well. I slept very well despite heavy rain at night, and I'm glad to report that there was no leaks at all. Both the tent and the awning will have their dedicated review videos in the future, comparing them to what I already have fitted on the Land Cruiser. A big difference I did notice when sleeping on the trailer was the stability. There is a lot less sway compared to the rooftop tent on the Land Cruiser in wind, and that was very noticeable as soon as I got in there, which was really fantastic to feel. Getting in and out of the tent on the stair system worked very well, but if I am being a little bit picky, I would have liked that more of the tent was moved back by 10 to 20 centimeters. This would have made climbing in and out of the tent a lot more comfortable, and it would also give me a spot to sit on while I take my shoes off before unzipping the tent and letting all the bugs fly in at night. The kitchen was absolutely brilliant. It was also fast to set up, very easy to cook on, and having a proper sink made the cleanup much more comfortable than normal. Inside of the trailer, all of my IGL products stayed perfectly safe and secure. Nothing fell around even on rough ground, which was a huge relief after struggling to find the right size mesh. The power system was completely flawless. Even in heavy shade and cloud cover, the battery consumed only 25% for 2 full days of running the fridge, water pump and lights. And the build quality of the trailer proved itself as well. Despite the constant rain before the camping trip and after the camping trip, the door seals worked perfectly with 0 leaks inside of the trailer, although I did realize that I needed to drill some drainage holes for the toolbox doors, which were overlooked in the laser cutting process. Not a big deal, and it only took a few seconds, but the feedback has been passed on. You can really tell that this trailer was built for some proper serious off-road use. All the water hoses were heat shrunk onto the fittings so they can't vibrate off. As a matter of fact, they cannot be removed at all without cutting the pipes. And every single fitting on the underneath of the trailer for water is clamped and coated in silicone to avoid loosening over time. All the electrical wiring connectors are heat shrink wrapped, and every single internal fixture uses riv nuts instead of self-tapping screws. The bones of this trailer are rock solid. But as this is a prototype and I was on a shakedown run, it meant that it was my job to find the flaws. And I did find some minor teething issues and some major design miscalculations. My first big regret is the suspension. The Cruise Master suspension is very comfortable and stable, but the trailer is very high. I knew it wouldn't fit in my garage, but out at camp, I realized that the kitchen sits a little bit high. I really should have gone with the Cruise Master air suspension because the airbags would have allowed me to lower the trailer at camp to a much more comfortable height to use the kitchen. Anyone shorter than me, like my wife, will probably need a step to see what's in the pan or to access the fridge. The airbag suspension would have also allowed me to store the trailer right beside the Land Cruiser in my garage. But it's too late now to change this, unfortunately. I also found a small plumbing failure. The water tap worked when it wasn't connected to the kitchen, but as soon as I connected the kitchen sink, pushing water up to the kitchen tap didn't work properly. The pump was sucking in air, meaning no water pressure. This meant that the kick-ass hot water system wouldn't turn on, so I couldn't test out the hot water system either. When I got home, I started taking lines apart to investigate, and I found the culprit. A faulty fitting with a micro hole on the vacuum side. Because it was letting the air in through the hole, it was also letting the water drain back down so the pump couldn't prime. And I found it purely by luck when I switched the fittings around from the low pressure side to the high pressure side. Replacing that $2.50 part fixed everything, and it ended up working perfectly. But if I hadn't tested it, that would have caused immense pain on my upcoming trip, not having access to hot water for showers and cleaning. Inside the rear storage, there was a layout design issue as well. The floor has channels with riv nuts to allow easy installation of unistrut channels and accessories like the slide-out pantries, which is absolutely fantastic and works incredibly well. However, because they're raised, it meant that the floor is not flat. This means that I can't put my boxes wherever I want, because they won't sit flat, and it also meant that they would slide around even though there is non-slip matting. I'm limited to placing my cargo between the raised areas, which really limits how I can maximize the space inside of the trailer when I'm loading products. I am going to have to cut down the uni struts that I'm using for the pantries, which were initially on the ceiling of the trailer, and eventually build a raised false floor to make it fully usable. Externally, because the trailer is a bespoke prototype that has not been made before by this company, the doors are a brand new design, and whilst they are incredibly strong, as a byproduct of the welding process, the large flat panels have some waviness due to the heat generated from the welding process. While this is normal to a degree in metal fabrication, and it doesn't impact the performance or the structural integrity of the trailer, after the 4x4 show, Red Dust Fabrications will be collecting the trailer to revise the doors and give the whole trailer a check over while they're at it. Finally, my biggest error and miscalculation: the awning and kitchen setup. When the kitchen is fully extended and the awning is open, the awning doesn't fully cover the kitchen. So if there is any rain, the kitchen is not usable, and this is a huge problem for me. In hindsight, the right thing to do would have been to choose a driver's side D-zip awning that's going to wrap around the front stairs and fully cover the main cooking area. That would have also given me dry access to the tent and a covered area for a shower. But right now, I don't know how to fix this without taking a complete loss on a brand new awning. There is also one more potential major issue that I need to diagnose, which is the brakes. Coming back from camp, I managed to overheat the Land Cruiser brakes on the rear. After a long, shallow descent, I felt the brake fluid start to boil and the pedal to get spongy and a little bit soft. And from my track experience, I knew exactly what that meant and also what would happen if I ignored it. So I pulled over where it was safe to do so, and I let the brakes cool down and I inspected everything. After a few minutes, everything went back to normal. But I'm not sure if this was as a result of improper adjustment of the Red Arc electric brake controller on my part, or a bigger problem with the braking system. Adjusting the brake controller doesn't seem to make things any better. It certainly does make the trailer brakes bite down harder, but it feels like the brakes on the trailer are sticky, and there is a very small but very annoying and noticeable delay in releasing the brakes when I get off the brakes on the Land Cruiser. I also noticed that when I stopped to let the brakes cool down, the rear brakes were literally smoking hot, but the front brakes were relatively cool and the trailer brakes were cool as well, which makes sense given that the rear axle has the most weight and grip, but I also expected the other areas to do a little bit more work, so it feels like the rear brakes are kind of carrying the majority of the load as opposed to spreading it out. Overall, the Shakedown did exactly what it was supposed to do. It proved that the chassis, electricals, and build quality are fantastic, while exposing the issues and weak points that I need to address and improve. At the time of recording this video, the Brisbane 4x4 show is only days away, and this trailer is going to be the centerpiece of the IGL Coatings Australia stand. I'm not really going to have time to make many changes before the gates open, but there is going to be plenty to do when I get back after this trip to fix and address all the things I have highlighted. On that subject, if you are going to be at the 4x4 show, please be sure to pop in and say hi and check out the Land Cruiser and trailer in person. I would love to hear your thoughts on how to address some of these challenges highlighted, and I'd like to know what you think of the channel and content so far. Also, a reminder to show your support by hitting that like and subscribe buttons for me. Thank you for watching, and catch you in the next video.